Ken refused to do the interview if we don't do the Tar Heel fight song. How you doing, Ken Cage?
I am doing great. Thanks so much. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing fine. It's in Ken's contract.
Yeah.
Got to do that.
Yes, exactly right.
Well, Ken, we've been waiting a long time, and I follow you and both you and Danny Thompson, your sidekick there on Facebook, and everybody and their grandmother's been asking you guys about renewal of the show, and I know that there was a push on for us to go to the Discovery Channel to put our thoughts in on the show and whether we wanted one, and I know I don't know how many thousands of people did it, but I don't know if that's what made it pay off or just the ratings of the show. I don't know, but anyway, glad to see that the Discovery Channel bringing back Airplane Repo for a second season.
Yeah, that's great news, isn't it? We're so excited about it. And I can tell you for a fact that Discovery did tell us that the social media interest, enthusiasm, emails, all that kind of stuff did absolutely have an impact on them. So they actually said our social media presence was really, really strong, unusually strong for a first season show. So everybody who's following on Facebook and Twitter and sent the emails, thank you so much, because that made a huge difference, and that's why Airplane Repo is back for a bigger, better season.
Now this second season gets started August the 22nd, Friday night. You guys actually shot this season when?
Over the last couple of months, actually. We between basically the beginning of May and beginning of July, we finished, like the 7th or 8th of July.
How many episodes, Ken?
We've got 8 episodes this year. And I can tell you that this year is going to absolutely blow last year away.
Well, we really enjoyed the show. It's you and Danny are paired up together. But we like everybody associated with the show. There's Mike Kennedy. He's kind of the daredevil. I mean, Mike's always, he'll fly a plane with no gas in it and stuff like that. Of course, we like Kevin Lacey. A lot of us, he kind of reminds us of Dale Earnhardt Sr. A little bit. But Kevin, something new in his arsenal this year. We've got what has been described as a fierce female pilot, Heather Sturzik. Tell us about her, Ken.
Well, Heather is out of Oklahoma. She's got just similar to Kevin and Mike, just this background in aviation that is amazing. Kevin's been doing this since, I think he said 1974, so he wanted to kind of start sharing what he knows and passing it on, and got to know Heather, brought her on, and then it worked out for the show too. So she's got a ton of energy. She's a big time flyer. She can fly a ton of things. So
I understand she's a stunt pilot.
Exactly. She's actually in Oshkosh right now for the big Air Venture show out there, and yeah, she's trying to get on every stunt plane she can get on. So she's going to add a lot to the show for sure, because she's got.
Well, Ken, let's explain for people that may be unfamiliar with Airplane Repo. You yourself and the people we've been talking about, Mike Kennedy, Kevin Lacey, and Heather. You guys are experts and are hired by banks to repossess high-end and enormous luxury things. The show is Airplane Repo. We also have seen you take back some big yachts too. But basically, you're hired to go get this stuff from these deadbeats who aren't making their payments. That's
correct, yeah. My company is International Recovery Group, and since 2006, I've repossessed over 1,600 boats, airplanes, RVs, and actually one racehorse. So, obviously with the economy, we recovered a lot on, Wall Street Journal and that kind of stuff. The TV people started saying, you know what, this stuff's interesting. So, they follow us as we try and, as we get the orders, try and locate these assets, and then whatever happens when we get to the assets, whether it's, dealing with mechanics or dealing with debtors or dealing with whoever. So, but yeah, it's the banks, the insurance companies, the attorneys that all hire us to go out and take these things back when they're not being paid for. And there are a lot of rich people not paying for their assets. So
that's what we found out in season 1. The thing is, though, this is different than repossessing somebody's truck that they're missing payments on, because these things, you're basically stealing them from the deadbeats. And
that's such a harsh word, stealing.
Well, I mean, you're sneaking in and undercover, and With an airplane, you don't know what shape it's in. So you got to kind of do as quick as you can kind of overview of the plane to see if it can fly and check its fluids and all that stuff. I mean, there's just an inherent danger about what you guys do different than, say, repossessing somebody's car.
Right. I used to work for, Chrysler Financial doing the collection. So I used to deal with the repos on the car side, and I was familiar with that. This is a completely different world. I mean, not even the same, remotely the same kind of thing. So you're right. I mean, we take these airplanes, and, you try and figure out as much as you can about the condition of the airplane from walking around it, checking the fluids, running up the engines. But, I mean, as you've seen, most of the test is once it's up in the air off the ground. So, you get up there and you think it's okay, but you're not really sure. And then all of a sudden, here comes some emergency light or some, just so many things can happen. It's,
I want to ask you, and all the time you've been doing this, maybe this is a situation that we'll actually see on the show, or maybe it's something that didn't make it to film. But has there ever been a time in your history of doing this when you were genuinely scared? I mean, when you're like, this guy's going to kill me, or this plane's going to crash. A time when you really thought, well, this is it.
Yes, absolutely yes, and yes, I'm sure you'll see a little bit of that because there are, a lot of times it's kind of casual, or, if somebody physically threatens me, I'm okay with that. I mean, that doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, when there's weapons involved, when you're in the air, and you're always nervous when you're in the air because you just don't know.
Yeah.
But there was one flight. I was in a little Mooney, which is it's supposedly a 4-seater, but it's not a big 4-seater. Single engine coming off the east side of the mountains into Nevada, and the Thunderbirds go just screaming past us. Like stuff like that, it scared the tar out of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like there's so many things because the radar wasn't working. We didn't know what was going on. Boom, there they go. We've had engine failures in the air. So it's, stuff like that. You never get used to it.
Well, Ken, a lot of these people are, I'm sure there are some that, hey, you caught me, here's the plane. But there's plenty of these people that they go really out of their way to not lose their asset, their plane or boat or whatever it is. Some of them are very crafty.
Oh yeah, they know how to quote unquote booby trap these things to try and basically what they really like to do is try and damage the thing. So if we start an engine, they do something to and you saw the prop last year on the boat that they tied it to the dock. Their hope was we would get that rope so tangled up that the drives and the prop would get ruined, hopefully pull the dock out, like this huge cost for us. That's what they try and do a lot. So that's why when we take them, we've got to be real careful before we get off the ground, as careful as we can be, because that's where they try and booby trap you.
Wow.
And that can be obviously deadly.
Hey, Ken, quick question. Now, when you go on a job, do you make a phone call to try to recover things peacefully and then you go stealth mode, or is it stealth mode from the beginning? How do your I guess,
what's the normal way of going about trying to...
do your perps know that you're coming?
No. I mean, sometimes the banks will tell them, but we won't call first because all that does is give people a chance to hide the airplane or the boat better or to booby trap it better. So, I'll do face-to-face meetings. That's fine because then they don't have a chance to really hide stuff from us. To give them a call first, before... Because let's say I get a call in Orlando and there's a plane in Missouri and I call ahead. Well, by the time I get to Missouri, they've had literally hours and hours to do something.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to give them that chance. And like they will do it. They'll hide it. They'll move it.
Well,
trap it. All those crazy things. I'll do a face-to-face and not really give them an option. But it's stealth mode from the beginning. I don't want them knowing we're coming. Element of surprise is my best friend.
You had a guy last year, owner, that was very crafty, and he seemed to be just give you the slip right at the last minute all the time. That was very frustrating to watch, from a viewer standpoint.
The citation with that little guy?
Yeah.
Well, who was the most frustrated was Danny. Because Danny never got to see the guy again, and that made him crazy. So he just wanted a little meeting with the fella, and I'm like,
I don't want Danny frustrated with me.
Well, that brings up an interesting point for folks who maybe did not watch the first season and maybe aren't familiar with who we're talking to or familiar with the show. We've actually had Danny on the show here in studio. Tell folks, if you don't mind, while we've got a minute, who Danny is and how did you come about meeting him and partnering with him?
Sure. Danny has been a bounty hunter for many years, based out of Charlotte. I think he's apprehended over 3,500 fugitives in his career. So he's got a tremendous investigative background, a tremendous instinct for where these things are going. So he and I got to meet, and it actually was a producer that introduced us. And we sat down. We had a very rigid and harsh interview I had with him. I asked him one simple question. I said, you can't work with me if you give me the wrong answer, Carolina or Duke. He looked at me like, are you kidding me? And I said, no, this is serious. I need to know. And he goes, well, Carolina. I said, let's go. So that interview process was very detailed and in-depth, but he was looking for people. I'm looking for assets. You know what? The investigation process is the same.
He can find anything, but he can't keep up with a set of keys. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
He still won't live that down. Ken, your show, we enjoyed it here, but then it made its way across the world. This show was very popular, and I can't imagine subtitles, but your show did real well in other countries.
It did. The UK, it was crazy good. I mean, the people there loved it. Australia, New Zealand. Danny and I were stopped in the Las Vegas airport by a fellow from New Zealand who said he loved the show. So it's on in Italy right now. I think they're on episode 6 in Italy right now. It's been on in Brazil. It's been on in the Netherlands. It's gone worldwide, which is just something I can't wrap my head around. But
yeah,
I think the draw for people is just simply it's watching something that you generally don't get to see. I mean, you've seen the bounty hunter shows and you've seen the repo shows where the towing company goes out and gets the cars, but this is just different because anybody with 2 or 3 brain cells left in their head knows if you get an airplane that all the stuff ain't working in and take off, it might wreck.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the draw for people, honestly, is they want to see how somebody's going to act when you show up, and you do get to see a wide range of emotions. We see the guy who keeps giving y'all the slip, and every time you show up, he takes off again. And then there are those, sometimes it's just a mechanic, and the mechanic saying, look, I ain't losing my job. I don't know what you're here for, but I can't let you take that. There's just all kind of people.
Right. And so everybody you run across could be an obstacle for you, so you've got to handle it accordingly. But yeah, I mean, the airplanes are something that you don't get to see. The debtors we deal with are completely different than the debtors the car guys deal with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a much more James Bond, and I don't want to elevate myself to that, but it's more of that kind of a feel because there has to be a lot more strategy in place, a lot more. I mean, the guys that are on the show have done this for a while. We've done it a lot of times, and we've got a little different Rolodex on how we deal with this because, I mean, we could be dealing with cartel, we could be dealing with gangs, all kinds of crazy people that you don't really deal with a car.
Yeah, that's true. If you don't mind, tell us, y'all went through a little bit of this on the show last year, and it wasn't a very in-depth explanation, but apparently when that plane is in a hangar in an airport and you go to get it, what part of what you're doing, if any, is technically illegal, and at what point does it become legal? Like, at what point does whatever supporting paperwork you have, at what point does that become the law instead of, hey, you're trespassing on this property to get the plane?
Sure. So, first of all, the big thing we heard a lot from people is, if you have this court document, why can't you just walk in and get it? Why do you have to be stealthy? Well, it's not a court document. It's a self-help repossession issued by the bank, so there's no court involvement. Second of all, the police cannot assist or support us in any way. It's a civil matter. So we've got that against us, which makes it more difficult, too. However, we do have the right to the aircraft. What we cannot do, and this is in almost every state, you cannot break and enter. So if your car is in your garage and I need to repo it, I can't break into your garage. Same thing is true with the hangar. Now, the one episode you saw, Danny beating the heck out of it, and he cut the lock off and all that. What you didn't get to see was the fact that that was a community hangar, and the airport had given us verbal permission to cut that lock, which is why it was legal. But we can't just break into somebody else's hangar. If he's got it in a hangar, we've got to figure out another way around.
We're all assuming, Ken, that some of this, just to make the show work, has to be recreated.
It does, and they we've been honest about that from the beginning, and we have the disclaimer on there that not everything can be shown live. I mean, everything you see either has happened or is happening. That's the best way to explain it. So, with the TV world, there's certain paperwork that needs to be completed, and if it's not, then we need to show it again.
One thing that was real was when Danny had to push that plane out of the way.
I will tell you what, that was amazing. Now, I did help. I need to make sure everybody knows. Danny won't tell anybody this, but my camera that was on me broke, so they didn't have any of the footage, but you'll hear me count 1, 2, 3, and then you'll see him. Did not really help with was when he had the belt around him and he was pulling it down the taxiway.
And he explained it quite simply. Is just wait, bro.
Exactly.
Well, are there, when you go, does your company work in all the states, or do you just work in certain areas of the country?
We have repossessed from every state in the nation. And we've gone to Canada, Mexico, the islands, the UK, we're all over the world. And I'm guessing,
like you said, there are going to be slight variations from state to state on what you can and can't do. And I'm guessing now this is just but you go to Mexico, I'm guessing it's probably a whole different set of rules down there than it is.
It's a whole different set of rules, yeah. And the islands are a little different, too. I mean, obviously there's a lot of boats in the island, so each island is a little different. But, yeah, I mean, Mexico's...
Well, the good news is there's nobody sitting in this room that you'll ever visit in an official capacity.
I ain't got nothing you want, Ken.
We can't afford nothing.
I got a pressure washer. Yeah.
Hey, Ken, how do the perps feel about being either portrayed on TV or on TV? How do they feel about that?
Yeah, do they have to give permission?
Yeah, they don't necessarily. Some of them don't mind it because they're in a situation they kind of feel like they're telling their story.
Yeah,
it's good. I mean, we're not trying to embarrass anybody. I mean, I can tell you 100 stories where, we treat people at IRG, my company, with integrity because that's the best way to handle it. It's the right way to handle it. I don't have to call you out and say you're a liar, you're a thief, you're a deadbeat. No, you're in a tough spot, and so people like to tell their story, and let's face it, it's still TV, and a lot of people are like, hey, some TV is bad TV is better than no TV. So some people are perfectly fine with it. Others are like, don't show me. So it varies, but some of the debtors are like, this is great. Yeah, show it. Show the story. That's they get into it.
But Ken, you always, unless there's a provocation, you guys are always very professional. You show them the paperwork. I mean, it's all, cut and dried. I got the paperwork. We're taking this plane, but you never talk down to people. It's all very professional, and you kind of let the guys that owe the money dictate how this conversation is going to go.
Right. We always give them out. And the other thing is, remember, with boats and airplanes, they had money at one point, these owners, right?
Yeah.
So they have egos, which is perfectly normal. We kind of deal with that. And if you remember the one boat with the young guy on it, we sent the girl down to get him off the boat, and then I had to walk him up the dock. I kept saying, listen, nobody needs to know about this. We can just tell people, I'm buying your boat, I'm buying your airplane. You just sold it to me. That's all. And he's like, well, they know now. I'm like, well, that's from you, not from me. I will never tell anybody what's going on here. I will always tell people I bought your boat, bought your airplane, to protect your ego, to protect your integrity, give you an out so you don't have to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
And usually when I tell people that, and I will do that every single time, usually when I tell them that, they'll calm down and say, all right, well, if you're not going to embarrass me, I'll help you. To the point where one guy's in the airplane with a pilot for 30 minutes showing him all the quirks of the airplane. That's how you can turn a really bad situation into a good situation.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a debtor sending letters to the company saying how happy he was with the repo, how it went down because we handled it well?
Yeah, he even vacuumed it.
Exactly. We get thank you letters from debtors saying this could have been a really embarrassing, traumatic situation, and you made it a lot easier. That's not something that's easy to do, but we're really proud of that, and we always try and take that angle.
Ken, we want to mention that this is...
deal with this guy, Danny on my right.
Yeah, that's right.
The show premieres second season August the 22nd at 10 p.m.
Yep.
On the Discovery Channel. And we need to mention Discovery Channel is The network is distributed to 100.8 million U.S. homes, can be seen in 210 countries and territories. And we love Discovery Channel's programming. They just seem to have a mix of, just a lot of different type of stuff, including all genres, science and technology and exploration, history, stuff like that, behind the scenes stuff, which is, a lot of what Airplane Repo's about. We've learned a lot about the industry just by watching the show. Like, for example, one plane that y'all got made it worth like half of what it was really worth because you didn't have the log books and all. I didn't know how important that stuff was.
Yeah, if you don't have the log books and the airplane's more than a couple years old, you have to recreate everything that's been done to that airplane over the history. So if you've got a 1981 Citation, for example, that's a 33-year-old airplane. If you don't have logbooks, you have to recreate everything that's ever been done in the last 33 years.
Oh, what a nightmare. Well, Ken, we appreciate your time. A lot of us have been really waiting to see, and we're starting to feel bad because we're like, I still haven't heard about Airplane Repo coming back or not. And the later we got in the summer, we were like, oh man, doesn't look like it's going to happen. So when I saw you post about it, I was really excited about it because my wife and I enjoy the show as do Shane and Reed. And we appreciate your time here this morning. We look forward to talking to Danny at some point too.
That's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it and appreciate all your support.
Hey, do you even get the Tar Heel games up in Philadelphia?
You know what? They're on so much, on ESPN 1, 2, 3, and the ACC channel's picked up by my local Fox half the time. So I probably see 2/3 to 3/4 of the games every year.
There you go.
Cool.
Well, good news. Appreciate it, Ken.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks you very
Ken.
much. Yep, there you go. Appreciate your time and calling in and talking with us today.